Okay, so it is now time to do some measuring and cutting on the steps. We're going to actually pre-cut every single one of our treads and then bring them all over, glue them all, and then we'll place them all at the same time. I like to do sections like that anytime I'm doing a particular job. I will do step by step by step rather than just doing a few here, gluing and getting them done, a few gluing them, getting them done. I like to cut them all, glue them all, install them all. It just seems to flow a lot better like that. So Ben's, these are commercial stairs. The sides of them are metal. So I done all 39 of them steps on the other side of the hotel, and every single one of them was exactly the same. So that was really nice for me to just go through and make every one of them the same size. So I'm going to measure all of these, and what I do, because they are such a stiff, hard rubber, I don't like to cut them like this is exactly 50 and a half. So I am actually going to go 50 and 3/8 because I do not want them I don't want them tight at all. I don't want to be struggling with them. And if they happen to be a little bit tight, then I'm going to, whenever I place them down in the glue, because they are so stiff, they are going to try to buckle if they're tight. So I want them to be able to lay just as flat and everything as possible without any tension, without any force or anything. And everything right there is just exactly the same. I got like 3 or 4. Let's say I got 1, 2, 3, 4 more of these flights just like this. I'm going to go through and measure every single one of them just to make sure they're all the same, and then I'll go do all my cutting. We are all ready to make our cuts here on this. As you can see, I got this is the actual stair tread right here. This is the top. I'm going to cut it from the back, and the part that hangs over the step right here, this lip right here, I'm going to take and butt my framing square right up against it. We was at 50 and 3/8 a while ago. So I am going to have an old piece of stair tread right here that I'm actually got underneath because it's really thick. And this is a storage room in the hotel, but I still don't want to cut through and cut the carpet all up, but just because I don't think it would really hurt anything just because of what this is. But anyway, I still want to be respectful and not put a bunch of little cut marks in it. So once again, I measured every single one of the steps, and they were every one 50 and a half. So like I said a while ago, I'm going to put my framing square right on 50 and 3/8. And this is a really thick rubber. Actually, I will pick this up and show you real quick right here. If you can take a look at that, I don't know. See how thick that is. Yeah, so it's pretty rough to cut this. Takes a new blade for sure. And actually takes a couple of times of cutting across it to get your cuts. You can't do it all in one cut by no means. It's just too thick for that. But I want to set my framing square, like I said a while ago, 50 and 3/8. The step was 50 and a half. You see right there, 50 and 3/8 is exactly what I'm going to cut it at. That's going to give me a 1/16 on each side. Be real precise with this because they got to be a nice fit. Again, I'm just pushing with my hand right here that direction to make sure it's all flat against this ledge that folds over the step. Once it's there, I can take my tape measure again and set it out of the way and make, once again, 3 or 4 passes with my knife. I don't want to try to cut through all the way at once. It's just going to be too hard, and there's no sense in doing that. Okay, so there, I think feels like it's pretty good. Again, I'm keeping tension that direction, and I just stand it straight up and slice right down the side of my framing square. Okay, so if I just pick up a little bit like that, you see how that gap opens up right there? Now I can take the back of my knife and it's just going to naturally go right in that crack because it's already almost cut all the way through. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so now that I got that done, I'm going to stand my framing square straight up. I'll let you see the placement of my fingers right there, and I'm holding this framing square real tight. And I'm going to take my blade and cut right down beside this framing square. Okay. Okay. Now again, I'm just picking up and finishing my cut through again with the back of my knife. Okay. Voila. Okay. So I actually have this host stack to do. So I'm going to get to it. And surely you've seen that in enough different views and angles to where, whoa, Starbucks. Anyway, surely you've seen that in enough different views and angles to where you can see exactly what I'm doing. But I got that whole stack of boxes to cut. There is 5 in a box, so I still got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 more 35 more treads to cut, and I just cut 5 just then. So I'm going to get all these cut, and then we'll go to the next step. So we have now our stair treads cut down to length, and let's test it out and see if it's going to fit good. Remember, now I cut it about 1/8 of an inch short. It was 50 and a half, so I went 50 and 3/8, just so that it would not be a tight fit. So let's see how that does. Okay, that actually is absolutely perfect. Get a real good look right there on them edges. If I had went 1/2 inch instead of 3/8, that would have been entirely too tight, and that was the exact measurement. So I'm glad I did go 1/8 of an inch short. As you can see, I do have a super little tiny gap. Well, actually I don't, now that I pushed it up. That's all it needed was, oh, well, now it's over here. Okay, so I do have just a tiny little gap, which that is more than okay. As a matter of fact, you're actually supposed to have a small gap in it. You're not supposed to have it tight against the walls. So anyway, now the next step that we need to do, obviously this cannot be up this high because of our next step. It's going to come over just like this does here and go down. So I want to push it all the way back to the lip, mash that in the corners real good like it's supposed to be, and then I'm just going to get me a little slit about where it needs to be cut off, and I'm going to trim just a little bit off of that to correct the bad spot, but still I'm going to have about 1.5 inches of coverage right there. So I don't have to be really precise with this, but at the same time I don't want, you can see about what I got there. I'll cut that off. So I'm going to have about 1/2 inch. You see that? I'll have about 1/2 inch from the top of the step here down to my cut. So now I can take all of these and I'll just take and lay them down like so, put my straight edge on them and cut every single one of them from right there all the way across. So that will be the next step that needs to happen. So we're going to go back downstairs and make every one of those cuts on all these treads. They all got to be cut the same, so we're going to go make all these cuts. 16 and 5/8. Just get your hands sore from pushing so hard on these things. My hand weights right now. Okay. So these actually got lines in them. I could probably follow, but it just makes it easier, and they're actually straight too. I can't believe that, because 5/8 right there, it's like a herringbone pattern, but 5/8 right there is exactly on the same spot right up there. So these lines that run this way are actually true. I guess probably just for that, but I'm using a straight edge just because I think it's easier to cut up against a straight edge. Put that down. Okay. So we got that. We went ahead and got that one cut. Somebody came in and I didn't want somebody to get in the video because I'm just always cautious about that in case somebody wants to get upset about accidentally being in the video or whatever. So anyway, come on over here. I want to point something out real fast. So if you see this, all this white looking stuff on here, watch whenever I pick this up and drop it, you'll see it'll kind of like poof. You'll see dust coming off of it, kind of like dust. I don't know if you see it or not. See any dust off that? Was it showing up in there? Barely. Let me.
In this area.
Okay, let me try another one. That way you can see more. Let me see right here. See if you can see this. See that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I was wanting to point out. I just seen it again right there. What that is, it's some kind of like a glaze that they put in the mold whenever they cast these in the mold. They put some kind of like a, I don't know if it's a silicone or a wax or whatever it is, but whenever they pour the rubber in the mold, it prevents this from sticking to the mold and they're able to get it out. So therefore it won't stick to the mold, so it's obviously not going to stick to the glue because it has that stuff on it. So this is a very important step of the process right here. This is denatured alcohol, and it is very important. We have already done all these tiles to get that finish off of it, that you take a rag and you have to wipe over this to clean whatever that is. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but whatever it is that prevents the mold, that prevents this from sticking in the mold whenever they make it, it has to be wiped over with denatured alcohol in order for it to stick in the glue. Now you won't see much of a difference because it's going to dry looking pretty much the same way, but the denatured alcohol will take whatever that is off, even though it still looks the same. This is going to allow it to stick in the glue. So every single piece, every one of these tiles have already been done. Every single stair tread has to be done, and any of these rubber treads or tiles that are molded and that are casted in a mold have to be wiped over with the alcohol to get that off of it. Okay, Okay, so we got all the steps scraped up and swept up. And now we're going to go ahead and spread the glue. You can see what we did leave here. It's not 100%. It don't have to be 100% because this is a super thick rubber. What is left on the floor is a really hard epoxy that is not going to come off. So that is okay. You can see some stuff right here. It wouldn't even come up with my scraper, so I'm confident that it's not going to come up just from the treads been on it either. So we got them good enough. We got them plenty good to go ahead and spread our glue. And again, this is 965, and it is Target floor tread adhesive. It is specifically for this. And again, anytime you're doing any glue down product, check your specific needs for the glue, how much ever dry time, because this is a pressure sensitive, but all pressure sensitive are not the same. Okay, so read up on it, do your little bit of research before you just go all out and make a bunch of boo-boos and have a big mess. You always need to check that, and any bucket of glue is going to have the information right here for whether it's a porous floor or a non-porous floor or whatever. And right here is what we are using, 16th by 16th by 16th. So always check that on all different glues. Again, this is a pressure sensitive, but all pressure sensitives are not created equal. So just because it's pressure sensitive don't mean that it works or has the same attributes, or you let it dry just like the other. There's lots of different types of it. There's pressure sensitive for carpet tile glue, pressure sensitive for vinyl, pressure sensitive for this. All three of them are different and take different methods of usage. So on this one, whenever we get ready to put the floor tile down, I'll show you how it needs to be for use on this particular product, because this you do not let dry all the way. I'll show you in just a minute about what it needs to look like. Okay, again, you guys have seen me put glue on the risers before. Come on, my other side there, baby. I'm going to do it the same way. I got some on my trowel, and this does not have to be perfect either, because this does get overlapped with this piece is going to overlap this. This just pretty much just to hold it against the riser there. Okay, this stuff is not got to be 100% because okay, so again, as I was saying just a while ago, this glue is a little different, and the way to test this to see if it's ready, you do not let it get all the way clear. What you want to do is touch it, and you see that? Have just a little bit of transfer of the ridges. It's not wet enough to smear, it's only wet enough to transfer the lines onto my finger. And that is exactly what you want. That's actually perfect. That was the first time I checked it. I didn't pre-test it to see if it was ready or not, but that's exactly what you want for it to transfer to your finger, just like that. Now, if you, let me get a deeper spot. Now, if you touched it and it just done that, that is too wet. You don't want to put it in there, and that comes from this gob right here. So I'm not going to base it on that. I'm going to base it on the majority of it right here. So that is all good. The reason why I left this edge without glue on it all the way up is right in the nose. Here's the stair tread. So right along in this crevice right here that goes over the lip of the stair, this is a epoxy caulking compound, and it's specifically for this, number 930, and it's made by Target. And it goes just for this. You don't want to put a whole gob, maybe the size of maybe a decent sized pencil there, or maybe a bead about the size of a Sharpie. You can kind of see what I got going on there, and that is going to be plenty. And this thing does not stop dripping. It don't matter if you push it or not. It's just going to keep on. So what I'll do is just set it right there. That way it's going to drip right in my crack. And the way I place these on, I'll take and go ahead and bend this up because that is pressure sensitive, so it's already sticky. And I'm going to try to get it. Let's see here. Right, there we go. Okay. Set it on there and mash it all the way back. Now when I do that, I can hear that epoxy squeezing out. I left this off, this front plate off, until I put these towels down. Then I'll just kind of tuck it up underneath there a little bit, okay? So anyway, I want to push this down in the crevice and mash it against the riser as it's pushed down. That way and it stays stuck because that's some good glue. Okay, we're ready for another one. Once you get these cut and everything, these steps actually go pretty fast. There's just so many, such a process to get everything ready is what takes the longest. But like I said, once you get them ready, they are good to go. You can see just the finishing result and just how fast they go here once you get everything ready. Same thing on every single step. It's just a repeated process. This epoxy gets extremely hard. That's what was on there. The white stuff, it was a different type of epoxy, but it was nonetheless, it was still an epoxy, and it was really hard. When I was scraping a while ago, that's what you would see chipping off, because it don't scrape off like glue. It actually chips off because it's so hard. Again, I'm just pulling back and I try to get it evenly in between the steps. If I get it twisted, crooked, or anything like that, it makes it tough. So I just want to get it as even as possible and set it right straight down in there. Mash that lip right there back on that, and that mashes that epoxy all in there real good. And then maybe from that angle you can see better. I mash it down in the crevice like so, and then rub that back on there after I get it mashed in the crevice. That way we got a nice, right there, it's nice and sharp instead of being tapered way out. So, something sticking up right there too. Okay, anyway, so that's it.